Here's something I mentioned and alluded to before, which is a really unbelievable statement. It comes from former Senator Norm Coleman, who represented Minnesota. He was one of those kind of very moderate Republicans. And he's Jewish and a very steadfast supporter of Israel. And he was giving a speech at the JNS event for Jews. And he was addressing the fact that in the United States, public opinion is turning against Israel. And here was his solution to that.
Of Gen Z have an unfavorable impression of Israel. And my friends, I think the reason for that is that we're losing the digital war. Okay, they're getting their information from TikTok and whatever it is, and we're losing that war. When you think about it, the masters of the universe are Jews. You know, we've got Altman and AI, we've got Zuckerberg, we've got, you know,
So I just want to note a couple things before I show you the rest. He's saying there that, first of all, there's these places where people who are young Americans, Gen Z, are getting this information that's turning them against Israel. And the example he led with was TikTok. Because as we've shown you many times before, the reason the TikTok ban finally got enacted after lingering in Washington for 4 years was not because of fear of China, but because of people becoming convinced in the Congress that there was too much Israel criticism, too much pro-Palestinian sentiment circulating on TikTok, and it was turning young Americans against Israel, and they couldn't allow that, and that's why they voted to ban it. Now, just by the way, the deadline for banning TikTok has come and gone 90 days ago. More than 90 days ago. And Trump is pretty much ignoring it and just saying, like, yeah, at some point we'll do a sale in order to keep TikTok going. And you barely hear anyone complaining about that. But so he's saying TikTok is where a lot of the sentiment came from, and we had to do something about that, and that's where the TikTok ban came from. Imagine banning an app in the United States that a third of the country voluntarily chooses to use, tens of millions of people, because there's too much criticism of a foreign country allowed on it. But that's what the US government did. But he's also saying, and when I first heard it, I thought he was being ironic or sarcastic or satirical, like mocking what an anti-Semite would say, but no, he's not. You're going to see, but you just saw this in the clip. I'm going to play it again. He's saying, look, the solution is obvious. The masters of the universe are Jews. We, Jews, have the masters of the universe on our side. They're part of us. He goes on to list a bunch of examples like Mark Zuckerberg. You're going to hear that. Could you imagine if anybody who was critical of Israel said that? Oh, look, all the masters of the universe are Jewish. You would be destroyed as an anti-Semite in a minute. But you can say the same exact thing as long as you're saying it in support of Israel, and nobody blinks an eye. Here's what he said.
And whatever it is, and we're losing that war. When you think about it, the masters of the universe are Jews. You know, we've got Altman and AI, we've got Zuckerberg, we've got Sergey Brin, we've got the group across the board. Jan Combs, you know, founded WhatsApp. It's us. And we have to figure out a way to win the digital battle. Amelia, we got to get our digital sneakers on so that the truth can prevail over the lies. And when we do that, the future of Israel will be stronger because a majority of all Americans will support Israel. We'll make that happen. We have to make it happen. Thank you. Baruch Hashem. Thank you.
I want you to reflect on how unbelievable that really is. He's saying, hey, look, I have a list of Jews who are the masters of the universe. They control everything. They can control public opinion. Sam Altman at OpenAI and Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook and Sergey Brin at Google and the founder of WhatsApp. And then he says, we have them. We, the Jews, have them. They're us. So he's like speaking about Jews as like a kind of separate from the population people, which again is like a very anti-Semitic trope to be promoting. He's not saying we Americans or we Israelis. He's saying we the Jews, we have these people. The masters of the universe are us, are Jews. And he's saying the thing that we need to do to combat declining support for Israel among American citizens is use the power we have over the internet, the control we have over the biggest platforms, to disseminate propaganda and change the minds of Americans back to supporting Israel. And the reason he says we can do it is because all the masters of the universe are Jews, and it's time for them to do what they should be doing as Jews, which is not offering a platform for American citizens to speak freely or to receive information freely, but no, to use it to bolster and disseminate and promote support for Israel so that Americans once again learn to love Israel. And it's such a naked, blatant way of seeing the world. I mean, people do see this world this way, believe me. They just don't usually say such a thing in public. And especially for someone whose life has been in politics, and they're just kind of naturally trained to understand the goalposts that you cannot transgress, the limits that you cannot transgress. For him to say something like this, I think, again, shows the desperation. Because ultimately, that is the biggest fear of Israel, to lose political support inside the United States for paying for their country. And that's where a lot of this desperation is coming from. Now, speaking of desperate, a Harvard professor named Ruth Weiss, or Wiss, wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal, an op-ed, the title of which is "Harvard is an Islamist Outpost." For a decade, it nurtured resentful leftists, and anti-Semitism united them in a common cause. The idea of Harvard being an Islamist outpost, the longtime home of Alan Dershowitz as one of its most celebrated and famous faculty members, I think it's something like 6 of the last 7 or 5 of the last 7, 6 of the last 8 presidents of Harvard have been Jewish, including the current one, Alan Gerber. They had a non-Jewish president for about 7 seconds, and Elise Stefanik and the Republicans forced her out because of her refusal to say we're going to ban phrases like "from the river to the sea" as genocidal. We have to look at the context to see if it's genocidal. They got rid of 3 other Ivy League presidents as well over the same issue, one at the University of Penn, 2 at the University of Columbia. And I just want to show you who this person is, Ruth Weiss, who is writing this op-ed in the Wall Street Journal saying Harvard is an outpost of Islamism, because I think it's very valuable to really listen to these people when they're at the most candid. Ruth Weiss she's a very distinguished professor of Yiddish at Harvard, but she's also one of the old school neocons. Very vocal in support of everything Bush and Cheney did as part of the war on terror, invading Iraq. She wanted to invade Iran. She wants a war with Iran. So everything to her looks like an Islamist outpost. Any criticism of Israel becomes anti-Semitic or Islamist. This is her worldview. And I just want to have you hear her worldview in her own words, where she's explaining to American Jews like herself what their duty is by explaining to them using the voice of an Israeli Jew what Israeli Jews are saying to American Jews and what American Jews should hear. Here's what she said.
Us look good. Our job is not to make you look good, American Jews. What do you have to worry about? Your job is to make us look good. And here's how you do it. Every one of us has to serve 3 years in the Army, 2 years in the Army, some of us 5 years, and then for the rest of our lives, you have got to serve 2 or 3 years in the army of words. You've got to learn to fight the political battle, which is even more important at this point than the military battle that we are. We'll fight the military battle. We're not asking you necessarily to come and be lone soldiers, although some of you can. You've got to learn how to fight back on the campuses, how to make the arguments. Now, they keep shifting.
I mean, that's her view of the duty of an American Jew. To enlist in the army of words in loyalty and defense of a foreign country, Israel. And she's even saying, hey, some of you can actually come and fight for the Israeli army. And there are a lot of Americans who do. A lot of American Jews go to fight in the Israeli army. The quote-unquote American hostage that's in Hamas is actually somebody who is an Israeli citizen as well, went to Israel, enlisted in the IDF, was in active duty combat the day that Hamas took him. I mean, now if American citizens go to fight for a foreign army, it suddenly becomes our war. If Americans go to fight in Ukraine and they get captured by the Russians, now it's suddenly our responsibility because they decided to go and fight for a foreign army. Obviously, that would never be the standard for any country other than Israel. I want to show you this as well. This is from March of last year, unlike the clip we showed you before, which was from 2019. Here's the same person, the same Harvard professor, Ruth Wissey, who has this article in the Wall Street Journal saying Harvard is a outpost of Islamism. And this is what she believes is also the duty of Jews. I just want you to listen to this. Again, this is an American Jew. I think she's Canadian, actually. But like Norm Coleman, who we just showed you, she conceives of Jews as a kind of separate people, a people with duties and obligations apart from their citizenship of a foreign country, which is one of the worst and most destructive anti-Semitic tropes ever. That's what Hitler wrote about Jews in Mein Kampf. That it doesn't matter where Jews go, what citizens of what countries they become, they're always going to have supreme loyalty to Jews and not to their country. People thought that about Catholics as well. When JFK ran as a Catholic, there was a lot of claims that he was going to be loyal to the Vatican and to the Pope and not to America. And there were previous Catholic candidates who were sunk by those suspicions as well. And that's why it's so amazing to hear Norm Coleman stand up and say, hey, we are Jews as a separate people. We have all these masters of the universe, so we can use them. They're for our agenda. Here's Ruth Wissey talking about how she sees Jews globally.
If you are an Israeli anywhere, and if you are a Jew anywhere, Mr. Netanyahu is the head of the Israeli government, and you stand up and salute, and you ask everyone else in the whole world, don't you dare.
I can't believe it. What I can't believe is not that they think this. I know they think this. What I can't believe is that they're at the point where they're kind of so desperate that they're willing to say it publicly. She said, if you are a Jew anywhere, not just in Israel, but anywhere, so you're an American Jew, Netanyahu is your leader. And so when he enters the room, you stand up and you salute him. The duty of an American Jew, an American citizen who's Jewish, is to stand up and salute the leader of a foreign government. We don't even stand up and salute our own leaders. Why would we stand up and salute, as an American citizen, the leader of a foreign country? Unless you believe, as she's saying, that the real duty of Jews, the real loyalty of Jews is not to their country of citizenship, but to Israel. That's insane. It's insane to go around saying that. That is what anti-Semites believe about Jews, and these people are saying that openly. Here, let me just play that part again, because I just kind of can't believe it.
And if you are a Jew anywhere, Mr. Netanyahu is the head of the Israeli government, and you stand up and salute, and you ask everyone else in the whole world, don't you dare minimize our prime minister. Don't you dare call him a chicken shit.
I don't know who called Netanyahu a chicken shit. I mean, I personally wouldn't call him that. He actually did fight in wars for Israel. I'd call him a lot of other things. I don't know if I call him that, but I don't know which. You can call him that if you want. But the idea that American Jews have to stand up and salute Netanyahu, I mean, this is the kind of thing that anti-Semites would say, verbatim. And these people are so desperate now that they are trying to impose this framework. You know, like, hey, the heads of all these American social media companies, they're us. They're Jews. They're the master of the universe. It's time for them to start using their power to manipulate discourse and public opinion to turn Americans into lovers of Israel again. Hey, they're not saying that in private. They're saying that openly. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.